Welcome to ESVN, the Emma Sports Vigilant Network show. My name is Emma Vigilant, and folks, you know what to do. YouTube.com/ESVN show. Subscribe, put on push notifications so you can know when we're going live, and say hello to my friend, my co-host, my producer, Bradley Alsop, who's going with the skinhead look these days.
Hello, everyone. Yes, it's me, Edward Norton from American
Yes, yeah. I mean, so you have a lot of like hair. Like you're blessed.
I sure do.
We have a lot of great hair in this house. In this office, actually. So, but does this help you? Like, I would think that this would be more your summer look to cool you down.
I have since I don't know what it was about last year, or even my desire, I guess, just post marriage to do something drastic with my appearance. But I really enjoy how little hair I have on my head right now.
It's like it's fuzzy. It's like a little bit.
Yeah,
like...
it's sensorially pleasing, and it's nice to not have to. I can't really relate to being a woman in a number of ways, but one of those ways is that I grow tired of even washing my sort of like semi-long male hair, let alone someone who has like you has hair,
every day,
or my wife who has hair, down to her shoulders, or
my
wife. So I really have been enjoying just not having the responsibility of
I understand that
of washing my hair as rigorously as I used to.
I could understand that.
I still do, obviously, but it's more just a kind of like rubbing my scalp with shampoo.
What I think people who do not have long hair like mine don't realize is how in the summer it is truly something that adds like 5 to 7 degrees to your body temperature.
Or
your heat, like what it feels like outside.
Yeah.
So in the subway, I mean, it's like I don't want to put my hair up because I never do on the show. Like I just don't think it looks great, and I'm also not somebody that does an updo well. Maybe one day I'll start wearing. Maybe I should just start putting my hair up on the show. I don't know why I never do, because I don't know. I don't love the way it looks on camera, but I gotta just like I barely put any effort in, and it's too much. So yeah, it's a pain in my butt. But we're gonna talk a little bit about the NFL free agency, the combine, Jason Kelce retiring, Justin Fields, but also the NHL trade deadline, because I will not be here next week, so we won't have an episode. I'm going to be on vacation, which I need very much. The NHL trade deadline's on Friday, and then the NFL free agency window opens, I believe, at the start of next week. So we'll talk about that in a bit. But let's start with the NHL trade deadline, just because that is, in terms of our timetable, the thing that's coming up soonest. The teams that you expect are going to be buyers. The Avalanche, the Oilers, the Rangers have gaping holes as a Rangers fan at right wing and at center for their third line center because Philip Hedl is out for the year with a concussion, his concussion issues. The Lightning will probably be buyers. The Bruins will be buyers. All the teams they're contending. The Golden Knights. Vegas has Eichel on long-term IR, a ton of money, I think, on long-term IR, which is, by the way, the hack that the Tampa Bay Lightning used to get their back-to-back cups. That was raised some eyebrows in the NHL community because they were putting players on long-term IR until the playoffs when they can spend as much as they want, which seems to be like a loophole in the way that the NHL conducts things. But it seems like, I think the Leafs, the Golden Knights, like some of these teams are figuring out that this is a way to hack the situation for the playoffs.
And they relished in it, at least the Lightning did a few years ago, because I remember, I feel like Nikita Kucherov had like that shirt about like the how it worked with them for the trade acquisitions.
Don't hate the players, hate the game, right, I guess. I still think it's a little slimy, but the NHL's got to correct it from a structural perspective.
Who was it? Was it Mark Stone with the Knights?
Another time they did that recently. Mark Stone's not on long-term IR right now, but Eichel's on long-term IR.
I see.
He's going to come back off of it soon, but still, like, there's some machinations.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And so the Canucks also have players on long-term IR, and they could be buyers. The Dallas Stars made the first splash, like, well ahead of the trade deadline, and they traded for Chris Tanev from the Flames, which I think is a great trade for them because he's a good defenseman, and they're a contending team. They still, I think after that though, have their first round pick to trade, as do the Rangers, the Leafs, some of these other contenders. The sellers are going to be the typical sellers: the Anaheim Ducks, the Arizona Coyotes, the Columbus Blue Jackets, and then some not so typical, right? The cellar dwellers. Some not so typical teams like the Pittsburgh Penguins are definitely going to shop slash most they are shopping, but they're going to trade Jake Gunsel most likely. Probably not to the Rangers or a team in the East is my guess, but the Ducks are the Ducks I even saw had Zegras on the trade block, but I just don't think they're going to do that because they struggle to sell tickets anyway. And even if Zegras is not the player that he's advertised as because of the hockey goal, because of the lacrosse goal or whatever he did, the Michigan, yeah, I forget what you call it, the Michigan, right? I just think he's a draw, and I doubt that the Ducks are going to part ways with him, even though I think some NHL pundits are wish casting it.
It would kind of remove
Vetrano's going to be traded, I think, from the Ducks.
It would kind of remove all. Vetrano's one thing, but removing Zegras, I think, would kind of represent some level of capitulation as a franchise.
Yeah,
that not only do we not even want to compete, which is kind of apparent as already, but we don't even want to have a flagship player on our team anymore.
Yeah, they're teetering on Arizona Coyotes money laundering operation territory. Exactly. So is Columbus. I mean, actually, well, I shouldn't say that about Columbus because they tried to make a big splash by signing Johnny Hockey. It's just the rest of the team is atrocious. And
we even talked about that. We sort of it seems it could, especially based on how they've performed since signing Gaudreau to that, or Gaudreau joining the Blue Jackets, it seems to me still sort of inexplicable that, I guess, A, Gaudreau signed there in the first place, but B, I guess he wanted to get out of Calgary that badly to put himself in this position where the Blue Jackets are still not even competitive. And basically, I would say
he had other suitors. He chose Columbus. I think
choose Columbus.
He wanted a small town feel for him and his family. I don't know. Hockey players are
hard to gauge. Yeah,
hockey players are very weird.
Because I feel like the Jackets have basically not been relevant since that one shock the world series they had against the Lightning in the first round a few years ago. But that was really it.
That was really it.
They've really circled back down the drain since then.
Yeah,
with the acquisition of Gaudreau.
Right. And I know Elvis Merzlikins has not had a good season for the most part, but when he played against the Rangers recently, he was freaking unbelievable. He's one of the things that they have going for them that isn't horrific. So I don't think they'll part ways with Merzlikins, but they are likely to trade Provorov. Coyotes will probably trade Matt Dumba, who is going to be on the trade block, 2 defensemen that are going to be, I think, more highly sought after. I mentioned Jake Gunsel. The Devils have been reportedly trying to court Jacob Markstrom from the Flames. He expressed discontent because I think that there was a trade that was almost about to happen and he was told about it and then it didn't come through. Apparently there was some interference from high up in the Flames organization. He's under contract through 2026, but the Devils literally could not need a goaltender more.
I was going to say it would actually be nice to think that the Devils might be seriously considering prospecting an outside influence in goaltending.
Well,
because it hasn't really, nothing has really worked significantly outside of Akira Schmid in the the playoffs last year.
Yeah, they need a change at head coach. I hated Lindy Ruff on the Rangers. The fact that he got hired again was shocking to me.
But he to me
they overperformed last year because their offense was unbelievable, but they still are horrific defensively, even though Ruff is supposedly a defensive expert and they've looked atrocious.
But he to me almost in a cross-sport comparison is kind of evocative of a George Karl or a Doc Rivers or a Thibodeau. I mean, Thibodeau's obviously been doing better than at this stop with the Knicks, and I think relative to sort of 3 years past due time frame with other teams. But
Thibodeau has a system and he's a disciplinarian.
But Ruff I think has that similarity where it's he's a tried and true capital H hockey guy. He always has a job somewhere, even despite the level of diminishing returns as his career progresses, and sort of as knowing that, in my view at least, he's always sort of had a shelf life on each stop of his career. Yeah,
it's surprising. It's got to be his last. his last hurrah, I would think, but it's the NHL.
That's right.
Who knows?
As the boys at Blue Shirts Breakaway say, there's always room for one of the 30 white hockey guys to get a coaching job somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah, and so I mentioned Tanev ended up on the Stars. That was really the first shoe to drop. Anthony Mantha could be on the trade block, and he's high up there. The Washington Capitals are not having a good season. They're falling apart a little bit, and their window is closed, so they're looking to rebuild their team, I would imagine. The St. Louis Blues are interesting because they feasibly do have a path to the playoffs, but they're still in a lot of discussions about selling. If they do actually trade Buchnevich to the Rangers, it would be like Christmas for me. I'd be extremely happy. I still have skepticism that they do such a thing, and I would imagine Buchnevich has some sour grapes about how he was dealt for a second-round pick. One of the rare bad moves by Chris Drury. The Flyers have overperformed this year under Tortorella, but they're still going to probably move Sean Walker and others. They will try to accumulate assets for the future. And Alex Wenberg of the Kraken is very much going to be traded. I think he was held out, actually, for trade-related purposes, so they're saying so explicitly. And he's a center I think the Rangers could target as well. But yeah, I mean, Noah Hanifin, the Flames are they're going for it. They're trading whoever, I think, for the right price. I mentioned Sean Walker, Jake Gensel. Yeah, that's really all I have right at the top of my head. But I don't think it's going to be a really busy trade deadline. I don't think there's going to be many blockbuster trades, but still interesting because I think that the teams, I have no idea who's going to win the cup this year. It's quite equal among a few. I mean, I think it could be the Dallas Stars. I think it could be the New York Rangers. I think it could be the Colorado Avalanche again. I think the Oilers are playing much, much better, but, it's the Oilers at the same time. So the Canucks, yeah, I mean, they've got a really good thing going, and JT Miller and Elias Pettersson are just, playing out of their minds. That could be it, but I don't know. There's a lot of parity right now at the very top with these contenders, so the rest of these teams are going to have to differentiate.
And it seems like a lot of the moves that you're alluding to that could happen would be kind of as you said, showing to which degree the teams that we expect to be sellers are being sellers,
right?
And if there also are teams, as you said, that we might not be as expecting to be sellers, but also who is going to be aggressive in trying to shore up either depth or just maybe add a one or two missing pieces to kind of really round that a playoff team or ascendant playoff team into form heading into the kind of home stretch of the regular season.
Right.
Because I agree with you for sure. If anyone I think who could use it is the Stars to sort of, because I always feel with the Stars, especially in the playoffs, they've been competitive enough in a number of ways to get to the second round or even the conference finals. But there's always, I think, been one aspect for them that they've been missing in one capacity or another. It was, I think maybe the closest or the kind of the most the team that I liked most was the one that they had last year, but it was a lot of reliance on Ottinger to be a hero and goalie, and also a lot of reliance on older players like a late career Joe Pavelski, Jamie Benn, a few guys up there in age. So a potential infusion of youth and a potential just another depth piece to fortify them would be a great idea. And also, as you said, the Oilers I think could certainly be buyers just to try and add any sort of fortification for Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, because we've seen that fail without that in the playoffs for them so many times before. And then, as you said too, maybe the Canucks, just because they are a young team overperforming, and so it's a matter of time just to see, can they keep this going in the postseason, as opposed to just more being a flash in the pan of a team that was not expecting to be this competitive this early.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I mean, and they're clear, as I mentioned, Elias Pettersson, they just signed him to an 8-year contract extension when he's been on trade rumors for so long.
Yeah, it's seemingly finally kind of connected, or the dots have kind of aligned for him to just break out this year.
Right.
Finally.
And JT Miller's having an amazing year. So, and I guess I could see the Lightning buying. I'm just a little bit more skeptical. They're also kind of overperforming. Yeah, like I feel like they are just like on the brink a little bit of falling apart as a contending team. But yeah, I mean, they've just like Kucherov is it's between Kucherov and McKinnon for basically MVP in the NHL this year, and Kucherov has 105 points on the year already. So it's just like unbelievable. 53 goals, 53 goals. So.
And I feel like I've probably been talking about or watching Nikita Kucherov on the Lightning since the 2012. It feels like since like the 2012 season.
Yeah.
And he's still doing this like 12, like a decade later. He's still this good.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it'll be interesting too to see also like what Winnipeg does, right? I mean, they're another surprise team that's actually played really, really well. So, yeah,
it's exciting. It's good. It's I'm encouraged, and it's cool to see that they're have been. It's kind of similar with the NBA, and I'm sure we'll get to it a little bit. As the weeks go on, getting into the NBA playoff race as well. But it's just been nice to see not only a lot of closeness in the standings, but also teams that I wasn't fully expecting in both leagues to be as competitive as they are. Like with the NBA as an example, relative to what we were talking about with like Winnipeg and Vancouver. But it's also like OKC and the NBA have been up at the top of the standings basically all season.
Yeah,
the Timberwolves have basically been all at the top of the rank of the standings in the Western Conference all season. So that's just been like. I like seeing these teams that are, these younger teams actually sort of start coming into fruition more.
It's so funny, too, because honestly, the NFL has become what the NHL and NBA were for so many years, which is like,
sort of chalky.
It's the Chiefs.
Yeah, right.
It's the Chiefs and the Niners.
Teams, yeah.
It's the Chiefs, the Niners, the Eagles.
Right. And if it's not it was
the
Chiefs, but if it's not the Eagles, it's the Niners, and that's what happened.
And now the NBA and the NBA is wide open, as is the NHL. So, exciting times in both leagues.
Yeah,
honestly.
can't wait. The playoffs are going to be awesome.
I mean, look, in the East, the Celtics are freaking dominant. I mean, what did they do to the...
it's basically the Celtics into the rest of the East on that
The
end,
Warriors last night, they just I mean, look, I know Steph Curry was like not 100%, it seemed like, but... Damn, they really. I thought that game might be close.
140 to 88.
Yes,
52-point deficit.
Yeah. I mean, as someone who took a shot on betting on the Warriors, I was not happy with that.
Yeah, that's a bad beat.
Bad beat. I really should have known better, but it's just I think I was blinded a little bit by my irrational hatred of the Celtics. So let's talk NFL now, because. The franchise tag deadline is tomorrow, and we've only seen one so far, I think officially, T. Higgins. L'Jarius needs another option, but it seems like they're going to try to trade him. They could tag and trade him.
Mike Evans re-signed with the Bucks.
Yeah,
on a
good for him.
2-year deal, so they're
less than I expected, because he could have probably gotten more.
I mean, he played even talk about similar guy who's just basically like just played excellent football his entire career.
Oh my God, the such a consistent wide receiver.
He's just 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns. You just can take that to the bank that Mike Evans is going to have that basically no matter what's going on around him.
But he's such an unassuming guy that he doesn't necessarily get the credit that he would if he was more of a showboater. But it seemed like he had said that he wasn't he was going to make a decision about whether or not to return to the Bucs based on if Baker Mayfield was back or not. And Baker Mayfield's a free agent, but it seems like if Mike Evans signed, Baker's probably close to re-signing. Even though I feel like Baker could go somewhere where like the team's a little younger. I mean, I don't know why he wouldn't look at Atlanta or something like that, but maybe they're not interested in him because I think they're going to try to trade for Justin Fields. But
interestingly enough as well, based on I think some comments and some interviews that Baker has done, one of the big I think kind of liberating factors for Baker in his career stemmed from his working with Dave Canales, the former offensive coordinator who's now the head coach of the Panthers. So I obviously just don't know how much other how strong his relationships with the other offensive staff, or it's with Todd Bowles specifically, or Canales was sort of like the real connector between him and the other members of the coaching staff. I'm just not sure. Right. So I think that might be a factor, but I think also, as you said, I think kind of Baker sort of played himself in to having more options than I think we would have anticipated coming into the season last year. That he would have these types of options after not only sort of a prove-it season with the Bucs, but winning a freaking playoff game over the reigning NFC champions.
And let's be real too. I mean, there's two pretty decent free agent quarterbacks on the market as starters in Kirk Cousins and in Baker Mayfield. Both really good players, top half of the league quarterbacks. I mean, the thing about Kirk Cousins is I think he re-signs in Minnesota. I think they're trying to go for it 100%. But an Achilles tear at his age is not something to joke about. And also, it's sometimes in those situations, you are more likely to tear your Achilles a second time because of the extra pressure that has to be placed on it. I mean, Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, talking about even a quarterback older than Kirk Cousins having the same injury.
So I like that is something to monitor. But I think
it looks like. Oh, sorry to interrupt you. I mean, just as let someone in the YouTube chat point this out. It looks like the Chiefs did use the
franchise tag on L'Jarius
tag
Sneed.
on Sneed.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it's but it seems like Sneed wants a long-term deal, so he's exploring a trade. The problem though is that there's some rumblings a little bit about L'Jarius Sneed and his knee, I believe, or his leg, something with that, some medical issue. So,
which makes me wonder,
but not enough for like the Chiefs not to tag him. So,
which makes me wonder too if they're tagging Sneed. Does this then mean that Chris Jones gets a longer term, a larger deal, or do they restructure something? Because I feel like the biggest tightrope it seems like the Chiefs are having to walk here is can they keep L'Jarius Sneed and Chris Jones not only on the team but also kind of like happy with their situation financially and structurally.
I know it just sucks because I want Chris Jones to get paid. Like it seems like he's just totally because he came back to the Chiefs on that 1-year deal that with barely any sweeteners after holding out. It just doesn't seem like he's the kind of guy that's going to be that adversarial with the Chiefs. And I'm sure he has great feelings about playing there. How could you not? But I wish that someone like the Chicago Bears would take a huge swing on Chris Jones and just like pay this guy. You have so much cap space.
Yeah, there are a number of teams who I think have the space or didn't spend on defense. That could totally be like, hey, why don't we throw like near record money? At Chris Jones for like 2 years. Or something like that.
I mean, like the Patriots have $93 million in effective cap space. I'm right on over the cap. Then the Commanders at 80. Then the Bears at 66. The Titans, the Colts, the Texans. The teams that are most cash-strapped are the Bills, the Dolphins, the Chargers, the Saints. It's every single year.
Yeah, Saints every you could put the Saints down there every year. No
who
are
the Bills even paying? Like besides Josh Allen,
Allen, Von Miller,
right?
Which is obviously looking depending on whatever happens. With the his health concerns, but he's also getting up there in age as well. It's a bit of that could definitely look in retrospect just the amount of years they gave Von Miller at the time, kind of a little bit of a swing and a miss in terms of how much they ultimately have to pay him for those years.
I mean, wow! Like look at the Texans with $66 million. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
but I just don't like the choices the Bills have made.
In terms of the allocation, it does seem like more for a smaller number of players that aren't really fully returning that investment just yet. And I'm not even including Allen nearly as much. I more mean just in terms of how the because of those big contracts having to kind of nickel and dime for marginal improvements as opposed to being able to make a big swing.
Right. Yeah. I'm just not. I just don't like the way, honestly, that they've managed things recently. The other Josh Allen, the defensive end for the Jacksonville Jaguars, is a free agent as well. I think part of why Mike Evans is able to stay in Tampa and why people want to play in Florida is because no income tax. Your contract just looks so much better when you don't have that chunk taken out of it for them. So that's Mike Evans is like, okay, I could get a similar deal elsewhere, but I wouldn't make as much money, and I get to stay and be in Tampa where I've spent my whole career. So, Josh Allen, Christian Wilkins is also a free agent. They've said that they're not going to tag him down in Miami. So
and he's great. Wilkins is a really good player.
Another great player who's about to be a free agent is Brian Burns.
Yes, that one is very interesting.
Unless they tag him.
Yeah, that's one is very interesting to me what the Panthers do because
I'd want to get the out of there.
Well, so that's the thing is like it's this interesting combination of obviously how calamitously everything went in Carolina last year. But in terms of I would think I believe honestly like the best coach out of that kind of like gallery of rogues that was assembled in Carolina that didn't really work out. I think the best coach on that staff is still Ejiro Evero, their defensive coordinator. I'm not sure obviously what relationship that him and Burns have, because Burns definitely didn't start with Evero. Burns has been on the Panthers for a while, but there are a number of teams where I'm like, I would part with some money and some resources if I'm the Los Angeles Rams, for example. If I'm the Dallas Cowboys,
they may not be able to. I mean, the Rams also, I don't
are strapped.
think they're not as bad as I thought, actually. Wow, so they're coming out of this hole, 36 million. So they're. I
guess that's something to potentially, and if they could restructure another somebody else potentially, or they could restructure. Same thing.
They need more blue chip players on their defense because they're really well coached.
Totally,
but like again, the Bears, Brian Burns and Montez Sweat.
Right, exactly.
Woo!
Put them together. And,
yes.
Sweat who is now under contract and really fit right in on that Bears defense.
How about the Lions? How about you have
the Lions for sure?
Can you imagine having Brian Burns as a complimentary pass rusher to Aiden Hutchinson,
James Houston?
The Lions, the Bengals have a lot of cap space, but that's all going to Jamar Chase. That's I think part of why they may still trade T Higgins after tagging him. So some of these teams I think could make the Patriots have the most cap space at $93 million, but do they ever spend it?
That's right. It
remains to be seen under a Gerard.
Right. This is like the first offseason where we'll be seeing this, where like, you know, we're not thinking about this under what the purview of Bill Belichick would be, both from a personnel and front office perspective.
And Justin Madubuike is also a free agent,
who I imagine will get paid very handsomely, regardless of whether it's in Baltimore or not.
He had a huge year last year, and also the NFL is beginning to start to actually adequately value those guys that are defensive tackles, like Dexter Lawrence, like Jeffrey Simmons, like these play. The new trend in the NFL is many teams' best pass rushers being on the interior, because it's the quickest way to get to the quarterback if you have an elite player at that position. Antoine Winfield is going to be a free agent as well. I could see I don't think he had the best season last year, if my recollection serves me.
Honestly, I will say I thought he had a better season than who got the All-Pro nod over him in Budda Baker. I think sometimes with that, I think Budda Baker just has a little bit more name recognition at safety, and I think Winfield played a little bit better.
Yeah.
But I think Winfield would be a pretty solid safety addition basically anywhere he went.
But these free agents for pass rushers, Josh Allen, Brian Burns, Danielle Hunter is also going to be on the market. There's some really good players. Jalen Johnson is going to be, I think, re-signed for sure. Just because, we're talking about all the cap space that the Bears have, they're going to have to re-sign him, I think. Michael Pittman is also a free agent. I imagine the Colts re-sign him too. You've got to keep they have a lot of cap space, and you've got to keep continuity for your young quarterback.
And especially after the season Jalen Johnson had with the Bears, he's to have a cost is sort of somewhat cost controlled, but also young cornerback who's playing as well as he did last year. I think that's worth its weight in gold. You keep a guy like that to be a you have Sweat now, as you said, if they maybe spend some money or resources to get another guy on the defensive line, but you have Johnson already kind of locked up. That would be that's ideal for me, just from a defensive perspective for the Bears.
And from the Jacksonville Jaguars perspective, who's more important to keep? Calvin Ridley, who is going to be a free agent, or Josh Allen? I don't know. I think that Josh Allen would be the priority, because Calvin Ridley had a good season, but it was very up and down and inconsistent. And the Jaguars, I think, have pretty good weapons lined up already. So Ridley could actually hit the market and maybe go somewhere else. It's incredible that the Seahawks did this deal with the Giants. Leonard Williams is a free agent, and they traded a second-round pick for Leonard Williams, who the Giants now possess, which is just which the Giants now possess, I should say, the second-round pick. C.J. Gardner-Johnson signed a one-year deal with the Detroit Lions. I could see him going back there because he's the kind of guy that has the edge. All right, here we go. Bradley has some breaking news for me. The Broncos have officially released Russell Wilson. That is the most obvious thing that they were going to do. Dude, what a disaster. We spoke with Russell
Wilson today to inform him of his release after the start of the league year. On behalf of the Broncos, we thank Russell for his contributions and dedication to our team and community while wishing him the best as he continues his career.
Oh, bro.
What? Nothing screams thanking your quarterback for his dedication to the community and the team by parting ways with the guy you have to pay like probably $160 million more dollars to
love it.
In order for him to not play for your team.
I love it. Sean Payton is like, get this dude who refuses to actually do checks at the line of scrimmage as a professional veteran quarterback out of my sight.
Payton's like if I am the boss here, it's him or me.
Yes.
And let's make that very clear what the determination is going to be. It's going to be me.
I think the Broncos are like in prime position to try to draft a quarterback because I think Sean Payton wants to actually mold somebody.
Well, especially with just making the choice here to kind of get out from under, even of course, obviously monetarily, this is probably still not great just because
they're $20 million.
They're going to have to really buy out Russ because a lot of this is guaranteed money, I think, regardless of whether he plays or not.
If he takes the veteran minimum somewhere else, they will still have to pay. There's going to be no offsetting. And I think he's going to do that to screw over the Broncos.
I bet. Especially with when him revealing and also talking about how basically they were saying, you have to give up your some of your contract guarantees or we're going to bench you.
Yes.
Like, I think if anything, Russ would never say it, I think, fully out loud, but I think if he could screw over the Broncos for how all of this went down, he will.
Yeah.
And
you want to hear the cap situation?
The cap hits each year I think are absolutely astronomical. I'm just trying to remember these specific numbers, but let me hear.
Sport Track, the Broncos will carry his $35.4 million cap hit into June, then take on dead hits of this is just so this is for this year, not the 2024 league year yet. So in 2024, $35.4 million, 2025, $49.6 million in dead money.
To not be on the team, to literally either play in another team's jersey or to literally not play at all. He's going to get $46 million.
No, $49.6 million in 2029.
So basically, if we just round up $50 million.
Yes.
50.
He's going to get $50 million from the Broncos in 2024. And that means in 2023, if Russell Wilson signs somewhere, the league minimum is $1.21 million. The Denver will have to pay the $39 million minus whatever he earns elsewhere. And
he should sign somewhere for $1.
He will. He's gonna go to the freaking Steelers or something like that. I'm not even joking.
He should say, "Pay me $60,000."
Well, the vet minimum is 1.2.
Pay me 5 figures.
Okay? Yeah.
I am going to be set for life.
But you know what would be hilarious if Russ's ego gets in the way of that? And he was like, I'm not going to come to a team where they're paying me the veteran minimum.
Yeah, there's also that possibility that he still feels almost the need to there's definitely a chance he's still I am this tier of quarterback and I need to be compensated properly.
But so does his ego supersede his desire to screw over Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos?
Right.
I don't think that'll be the case because I don't think there's going to be a team that's willing to pay him more than the league minimum at this point because they know he has no leverage.
I also am wondering what the appetite would be for him as a starter.
Yeah. He's gonna have to compete.
Right. That's my thing. I just don't know if any team has seen enough from him the last 2 years on the Broncos, even when the offense I think was maybe bearable to watch with under Peyton for a few games with how the run game was and sort of how the kind of jump passes and short yardage passes and a little bit of scrambling power that Russ still possessed. I just don't know if that's enough for any team, honestly, at this point to be we need him as our starter.
Yeah, I don't think this is the largest dead cap hit in the history of the NFL.
It's unbelievable.
Okay,
it's absolutely gobsmacking.
$85 million. What's the next closest dead cap hit? Just guess.
I'm wondering, is it by number though? I would maybe 30 million.
40 million for Matt Ryan.
Okay, 40 million.
40 million for Aaron Rodgers. Which.
Wow, from Green Bay to the Jets.
I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Carson Wentz 33.8, and then Russell Wilson also dead cap, 26 point.
Great to make
26 million.
Great to make this list twice.
Yeah, yep. Unbelievable.
That's so crazy. I can't believe it. This, like, what a
historic bag selection compared to like bag. What do you get? Bag getting. Historic bag getting.
He secured the bag
compared to performance.
It's really amazing to think about just like how quickly and catastrophically this all happened, because even from the beginning, when the supposed rationale for hiring Nathaniel Hackett as head coach was presumably that he was the Rodgers whisperer and that they like to, like, you know, watch Austin Powers together and make fart jokes in the headset, and like that would be enough for Rodgers to go to Denver. It wasn't. And then for the contingency to be a kind of slightly battered physically and definitely emotionally kind of savaged Russell Wilson, and I mean that because, like, you know, very clearly after he left Seattle, it became more apparent that all of his teammates fucking hated him.
Yeah, as did the coaching staff.
That Carroll did not want to continue the Russell Wilson experience any longer. That from literally that moment on to now has been like 2.5 years, and it ends with him, you know, having a solid gold parachute, but maybe being out of a job in the NFL for some time, or not being in the job that he anticipated being in, which is an NFL starter.
And they gave up multiple first-round picks for this.
First-round picks.
They finally have their first-round pick back this year, and I feel like Sean Payton's going to be like, I'm going for it. I'm getting my guy. And we'll talk about the quarterbacks in the first round after we talk about free agency, because I have some thoughts. But 2 star running backs are also free agents, Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley, who I think is going to... The Giants are just letting him test the market, because I don't think that he necessarily has the market that he thinks that he does.
I think it would be kind of cool for either of them to be on a contender, or if not even contender, I mean like a team with like a top 10 to 12 offensive line.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want, like, for some reason the Eagles have $37 million in cap space.
Like,
I would want to. I want to vomit if he went there. But the Giants have $24 million. They could potentially re-sign him. I mean, like, I really want to get off this train. Like, I wish that, honestly, we had traded him, because I don't like structuring this. Like, I'm sick of this team having to structure our offense around this player. Like, I know he's a great talent. I understand it, but we need to get off the Saquon Barkley train. I hated the pick at the time. I'll never get over my fury at Dave Gettleman for not taking who I want. I wish I had the show then, because I was obsessed with taking Josh Allen. Take Josh Allen, not the defensive end, the quarterback. I've never been more right about anything in my entire life. Okay, never. Or trade down. Apparently, the Broncos wanted to trade up for Sam Darnold. They wanted to get ahead of the Jets. And Gettleman didn't take phone calls because he was so in love with Saquon Barkley. We could have gotten Denver's first-round picks, and they could have taken Sam Darnold ahead of the Jets, and that would have saved your Jets, maybe. But my God.
And there wasn't enough tape at the Senior Bowl.
Oh! Anyway,
somehow
I can't.
Josh Allen should have gone to the Senior Bowl in like a Daniel Jones costume.
Yeah. Yes. Right. Yeah. God. Did he work with what's his freaking name? David Cutcliffe?
Yeah, did he work with David Cutcliffe? If he didn't work with David Cutcliffe, I'm not really interested.
Please, I would have paid David Cutcliffe all of my salary for a month if he was gonna lie and say that he worked with Josh Allen on his mechanics up at Wyoming.
You don't say.
Wish I could turn back time, but you can't. Speaking of the Giants, Xavier McKinney is going to be a free agent too. I think they'll work something out. Xavier McKinney is a really good player, because he's not just like a one-dimensional safety. He can play in the box, and he can play in coverage.
He's awesome.
Yeah, I don't even think he's really realized his full potential yet.
I would be willing to like invest in McKinney if I'm the Giants, and of course, as you said, much, you know. I think
I would definitely want to, if I had a binary choice, McKinney or Saquon Barkley. Yeah. McKinney many times.
And also just because I think as of now, clearly the investment initially obviously was a little rocky. I think just like these adjustments take a little bit of time, especially when in the grand scheme of things the NFL does not give you a lot of time regardless. It's only 17 weeks.
Right.
But Bobby Okereke came into his own, had a great season at linebacker for the Giants, and I think still developing and fortifying the spine for the Giants of the defense, which had been such a huge issue for them even when they won their playoff game against the Vikings. Guys like Jalen Smith were out there playing.
Their linebacking core has been atrocious for years.
Yeah, so to have Okereke kind of shore up that spot, have McKinney back there shoring up that spot, hopefully Adoree Jackson back fully healthy, at corner, and obviously with both Deonte Banks and what's his Trey Hopkins? Trey
Hawkins.
The ultimate
6th round pick,
who I thought was still pretty decent as well.
He had a decent season, yeah. I mean, I think he ended up kind of falling off a little bit later, but
Banks, I feel like played really well.
And my guy, and is he might be my next Giants jersey.
And I think he showed a lot of flash and potential. I feel like that's only going to
he can play press corner, press man,
as he gets fully more into his body and into the NFL grind. So I feel like this season
has to be an outlier for the Giants. Yeah. I can't imagine them having that bad of a year this year with Brian Daboll, who I was happy to see was one of the highest rated coaches in the NFLPA survey, which was not a given because he's such a
he's a hard ass.
He's a hard ass, yeah.
But I think those expenditures, all that being said, is I totally agree with you that the time to move on from Saquon was probably even a few years ago. Mm-hmm. But if it ultimately is this year, I think that makes a lot of sense for the Giants and to fortify some of these sort of understatedly really strong spots on the roster to, as you said, kind of supplement what I already, even though they struggled, I still have confidence in what Brian Daboll can do with the talent that they have and could potentially build on or at least acquire,
Yeah, by the way, the NFLPA survey, I just was reminded, we honestly probably should have gotten into it, the NFLPA report cards. The teams that had the worst head coaching, teams that had C's or lower, C+ for coaching, Atlanta Falcons, C for Washington Commanders for coaching, and D for Las Vegas Raiders, which is totally
can't
obvious.
Say I'm too surprised with the Arthur Smith, Ron Rivera, Josh McDaniels lineup. It doesn't seem to be too out of the ordinary to think.
In terms of head coaching, the teams that got the best records, A+, Detroit Lions. The players freaking love Dan Campbell.
Love Dan Campbell.
Kansas City. Everyone loves Andy Reid, and the Minnesota Vikings. Kevin O'Connell seems to be. Plus, the Vikings seem to have a great facility. They treat their players well. They score always very high on the NFLPA report card. So that's a little bit of an aside. So I don't want to get down into that. Maybe we'll do that another time.
But interestingly about that, the Dolphins were high up in many of the categories, kind of across the board. But it was interesting that Andy Reid was very high up in the coach rankings, but kind of seemingly across the board, almost everything else for the Chiefs was actually pretty low in the ranking. And it seems like a lot of it stems from just thinking that Clark Hunt, their owner, is kind of a miser. He doesn't really for as much success as the team has had, that he just does not invest in the resources and the amenities that would come with being a 3-time Super Bowl winning team.
It was like that last year too, and they still haven't corrected it. So this is a stain on the Chiefs. They need to correct it. But that's a whole different conversation. We'll do it another time, even though I could go into it.
They're always fascinating, though.
Yes, yeah. So, those are some of the free agents. I mean, God, there's some other interesting free agents, too. There's some interesting linebacking free agents, which is this draft coming up is reportedly very weak at linebacker.
Yes, definitely.
And very weak at running back. So that's going to inform some of this.
For sure.
I don't think that most estimates don't have any first-round running back or linebacker in consideration.
It seems like a lot of it would in those two areas, especially, would be you're going for either kind of sub-package guy in linebacker or complementary guy at linebacker.
And Josh Jacobs is a free agent. Yep. I didn't mention that, but Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley, and then some interesting linebacker free agents too, like Levante David is 34 years old. He may retire, but
I think can still play at a decently high level for one more season. He's such a good player.
Yeah, Andrew Van Ginkel can play edge or linebacker in a different system. He had
a great season this year too.
Jordan Brooks is up and down with the Seattle Seahawks, but he's also going to be on the market. So, Azeez Al-Shaair of the
Titans,
Yep, he's available as well. So, Tony Pollard's a free agent too. There's some decent free agent running backs. Yeah, it's just can they get paid?
Yep, exactly.
So, some offensive tackles, but not a high-end ones, really. Kyle Duggar is a safety on the market.
Duggar's great. I love Duggar too.
I mean, Tyron Smith is getting up there in age, but he's going to be a free agent. Michael Onwenu of the Patriots is going to be available. So just some fun tidbits for you.
All across the board with those in those areas, some really interesting free agents. And I think, as you said, I think with both, as you said, both the linebacker and safety conversations as well as running back conversations, it actually does seem like, which is not always the case.
It lines up with the draft.
Yeah. That you would maybe want to go into the free agent aisle as opposed to waiting for the draft, because you just might not find value in the draft this time around. For like, there wasn't for example, like going to last year, there wasn't this clamoring for a Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs in the first round in this group of upcoming draftees, or even, it wasn't overdraft, but there's not even a guy you'd be like, there's not even a guy you would consider having a Jack Campbell-like pick in this draft for a linebacker, because it would just not happen. It would be out of the question.
Right, exactly. All right, so that's our free agency preview. Okay, some quick NFL news as well. Well, let me just talk about the Combine really quickly.
Combine's fun.
I just hit the mic.
A lot of fun, a lot of big testing numbers.
I am now convinced there could be like 5 quarterbacks in the first round.
Oh yeah.
And 4 quarterbacks in the top 10. Because, I mean, the Chicago Bears are taking Caleb Williams. Guarantee it.
Yeah.
Heard him being interviewed. He's interesting to me because I kind of am growing to like him. He's a bit of an iconoclast and a bit of an asshole. He reminds me of Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to be honest with you. And he said his favorite quarterback was Aaron Rodgers. Personality-wise, he seems to be pretty anti-NFL, like, corporate pressure. He's not doing any medicals at the draft. He's not working out, or at the Combine, not working out there. Basically saying, screw you, I'm going to the Bears, and I can give them my information, and that's all that the only team that needs it.
He's definitely a little Kyrie coded for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, I kind of like it. He's a little spicy, and he is just so entertaining.
I appreciate that he's not just like an NFL automaton. Like he's not just a cyborg for the Shield. Like,
is he a head case?
Yeah, he might be.
Remains to be seen. But he does seem to be like an intelligent person, maybe a bit antagonistic towards authority, which I kind of like. But are you a good antagonistic to authority, or are you Aaron Rodgers? I don't know.
Can he have both? I think the mindset and the ability to have a like CJ Stroud-esque season for a long-suffering franchise.
They have to do it. The Bears just have to pull the trigger on this.
Oh yeah, of course.
And then where does Justin Fields go?
Right.
I think he goes to Atlanta. I mean,
it would. I think Atlanta to me makes the most sense. The only other option I thought of was Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, even with Arthur Smith making the transition from Falcons head coach to now Steelers offensive coordinator, replacing Matt Canada, I'm curious if Mike Tomlin wants to make any other big decisions at quarterback as well, or kind of maintain the status quo, which I think is obviously inadvisable, because honestly I just don't think Kenny Pickett is that. No. I don't think there's much more upside to what we're going to get out of Kenny Pickett, and
he's a career backup in my opinion.
And I definitely think that with anybody else they have on roster as well, with Mason Rudolph or Trubisky, no,
Trubisky's not even going to be back. They only have 2 guys on the roster right now.
If I'm a Steelers fan, or if I'm the Steelers, I just think like, how can we as quickly as possible upgraded quarterback? Yeah. So Fields, I think, would be. I think Fields to Atlanta makes honestly the more sense in like the context of what their weapons are like on offense and how good their offensive line is. But I think the Steelers should absolutely be trying to have the conversation. Yeah. How about the Raiders? That could be an interesting fit. Totally. I still think though that the Atlanta Falcons, with the history of that franchise, when the Falcons were like the most exciting. I know that they went to a Super Bowl with Matt Ryan, but Michael Vick, running black quarterback, strong arm, like exciting in a city that is like the black capital of the country, right? Of black people are don't really show up. I would say people in general to Falcons games.
maybe if they like had a player who's also from Georgia, representative of the community there, they could actually draw people to the seats. That's something that they should keep in mind. And he's incredibly talented. So
it is. I like when the Falcons are a competitive good team.
Me too.
I really like the Super Bowl team for the Falcons, and I think I mean the Michael Vick Falcons, as you said, were so exciting. The Roddy White, Julio Jones,
apparently the Steelers have removed themselves from the Justin Fields race. So
the Steelers have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
got it. So then to me, if that's the case, I think it truly is the Falcons to lose. Honestly, if they want to make the call, which I think
it just seems so obvious that I'm worried it's not going to happen.
And the reason I say it too is because it's not just Fields' fit in kind of the fabric of the Falcons' history, but also one. A offensive line that is kind of specifically tailored to like duo runs, counter runs, draw plays, like the specific strengths of guys like Caleb McGarry, Drew Dalman at center, Matthew Bergeron, who they drafted last year, are how athletic they are in climbing to the second level and the run sets that they employ.
Yeah.
So to have not only the Fields option at quarterback, but then also having still, even though he's getting a little bit older, but Cordero Patterson, Bijan Robinson in his second year, who we were talking about during the season, should have absolutely 100% have been utilized so much more than he was. And then having even Kyle Pitts, if he's just blocking more so than catching, because he's obviously, I think there's been a little bit of a difficulty in getting him fully going as a pass catcher. And then if there's sometimes a lot of counters to that, you'll have Drake London on the outside.
Yeah.
Like I think I just could see Raheem Morris making a lot of opportunity for all of these blue chip guys with Fields behind center with a better offensive line to give him more time to process.
Or do they want to make a swing at Cousins?
Right,
and be
or
like,
have kind of a high level processor
to
really facilitate
who
the
can
offense.
Not mobile, but somebody that can pass to all those great talents.
We'll get much more out of those guys.
Oh,
than
yes.
Desmond Ridder or Taylor Heineke.
Yeah. So I mean that's something to watch. But other thoughts on the combine. I think it's super clear that, Caleb Williams is going to the Bears. The Commanders, they'll probably go Jaden Daniels in the end. I mean, everything I'm hearing about what draft analysts are saying about Jaden Daniels is it's like, oh, this is it's in a different level than Drake Maye. Like, Drake Maye is just not the athlete that maybe he might be in college, that he would be in the NFL. That's the question surrounding him. And then Drake Maye to the Patriots seems to make complete sense, or somebody that wants to trade up with the Patriots because the Patriots have so many holes that maybe they don't want to go down that road. So if you go 1, 2, 3, or at least Drake Maye is is going to be a top 10 pick most likely, then the question is, where do the rest of these guys go? And JJ McCarthy looked kind of good at the combine. I keep hearing about him to the Giants. And I'm trying to maybe convince myself. I was not sold on him because of his frame, but he throws the ball harder than I thought. He looked thicker at the combine. And then, Bo Nix kind of looked good at the combine. Michael Penix, I know his knee is such an issue and his age, but he throws such a beautiful pass.
He has.
I'm such a fan. I'm rooting for him no matter where he goes.
He has like a bazooka for an arm.
He's an incredible passer, and I'm a sucker for that, right?
May I will say though, despite not being near, I would say as athletically gifted as a guy like Daniels or even Penix, he does have a good arm, and he's definitely I see him in some of the stuff that I've watched of him. He just makes a lot of high level throws in all areas. Yeah. So I think on the right team he would be a really solid starter with some higher end upside. But definitely I would say when you watch Daniels, you watch Penix, the arm talent and the ability on their feet does really stand out. Daniels for his frame is fearless, which I think is kind of, I was saying this to you before the show, is like obviously can be a little concerning, but it's just very clear how competitive he is and how if you can harness the athletic gifts that he has, he could be really special.
Yeah.
I just think the weight is only the real concern because he's 6'4", 205. So he's tall and a little bit lanky.
Yeah. And do the Commanders want to go down that road when, like, there was a very similar kind of situation in the Andrew Luck RG3 draft, and RG3 didn't have the same frame, and we all know how that ended up. And then the question was, like, was it the Shanahan system that was making RG3 better than he actually looked like? But regardless, it's going to be 4 quarterbacks in the top 10. I think JJ McCarthy's going to be in a top. I think the Giants will take JJ McCarthy if he's available, based on what I'm hearing. I
think there's a chance, even with the addition of Bo Nix, and Spencer Rattler coming out of South Carolina, not necessarily in the first round, excuse me, but I think there could easily be like 5 or 6 in the first 2 rounds of the draft.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I think there's definitely going to be a decent run of quarterbacks that are not available on into the 3rd round.
I think someone trades up for Bo Nix in the first. I think
it's definitely possible.
And that makes it 5. And then it's also like, does Michael Penix go in the first?
If the
medicals check out, and then that's 6 guys
it could
potentially.
Be Rattler, it could be Tyler Van Dyke from Miami. There's some other options for sure. I also think with Penix, you know, some of these, and even I think some teams and some former evaluators, etc., have made this case. You know, a lot. There obviously NFL scouts are looking at this stuff year round. Coaches and some front office people aren't, I think, fully keyed into the draft until maybe a month or 2 before. And I think not only recency bias, but like the big games do make a large impact on the higher ups, like the coach and the general manager and other front office people outside of the scouts. I think some people probably looked at what Penix did in the last few weeks of the season and are like, holy shit, what if we could get that guy and he becomes our guy and he harness what he has?
I know his national championship game wasn't amazing, but he was so beat up.
And but you also do see some of these throws in the lead up and you're like, how many people on earth can make that throw?
Yeah. I mean, like, I kind of like Michael Penix more than Drake May. I kind of like Michael. Like, if he didn't have injury concerns, he'd be maybe the second quarterback I'm taking.
I think the combo of the injury and the age, which the age is a little, I think, harder to parse, just because with the COVID year addition, like every quarterback for the most part, a lot of prospects are just slightly older just by virtue of the COVID year.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit of a difference with the age factor, because a lot of these guys are going to be a little bit older, like Nix, Rattler, even May. I actually think May and Williams are not as old, but those types of guys, kind of like the second tier.
Yeah. JJ McCarthy's not old either.
Yeah, McCarthy's like 21, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that being said, the injury concerns, the age, but also I'm with you that, like, if you told me that the highest ceiling guy before anything happened was Penix, like in terms of like a year later, 2 years later, it wouldn't shock me at all. Like, it really wouldn't. Like,
of the pocket passers, who throws a prettier ball? Of the pure pocket passers, which I would say are Drake Maye and Michael Penix. But
Penix definitely runs better, in my view, right? I think Penix is definitely more. Like, I think Penix. If
Penix is a better athlete and has a better arm than Drake Maye.
If Penix has to drop out, or drift to the side, or just take off if something breaks down, I just think he does have that, like, you know, it's totally intangible, but there are, like, I think Drake Maye is definitely, I would argue, a more complete package, but Michael Penix has an it factor that to me, I know it's silly, like, I understand.
I know.
But just like, I see it where I'm like, if you could actually make this a consistent product and distill what Michael Penix is, he has something special. Like,
yeah,
he does. Like,
he does. He does.
So yeah, I think I'm a little intoxicated by Penix.
Me too. I understand.
If you can't tell,
we have similar tastes.
Because I think May is really good. Like, I do think he's really good. It's just like I'm not as blown away watching May as I am watching Penix.
Yeah, and it's just, do you draft for elite traits? And I would, right? And then the question is, what is really elite about Drake May's game? What is elite about Drake May's game to take him at the top of the draft? I don't know.
It's pure. It's so much more. I think that he's like, I think it's almost like he to me is probably outside of maybe, no, I would still say over JJ McCarthy. I think he's like the safest bet to be a high-end starter.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know about like star, but I think he's just like all around comprehensively. He hits multiple marks. But like I think with what we've talked about a lot is like I like the fence swinging with the quarterbacks
Me
in the
too.
draft.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, we saw when you take someone safe like Kenny Pickett, what happens.
in the first round, and it doesn't manifest. Like,
I agree. So we would run a team well together. Let's wrap up here with this Jason Kelce.
oh
news.
yeah. This is
Gotta pay
this got me
homage.
in my feelings.
Gotta pay homage to Jason Kelce. I can't hate the Kelces, even though they're so overexposed and love attention. And that's fine. Look, I do a show. I love attention to a degree. I'm on camera. I'm talking into a microphone. You're giving me your attention. So I understand it. And I just think that they're really...
I won't forget Nick Foles having the game of his life.
Sorry, Blang. I just think that they're good for the game and that they're fun to root for, even though I hate the Eagles. I couldn't help but like Jason Kelce. He was sobbing throughout his retirement announcement. He read a poem. It was really sweet. This part, though, was funny. And to hear him say this through sobs, he said it. He'd appreciate us laughing about it because he's got a good sense of humor. This was pretty good.
I won't forget Nick Foles having the game of his life on the biggest stage possible. And the biggest dick on the team going up to Doug Peterson and asking for the Philly special. And Doug Peterson having the biggest balls in the stadium.
Crying.
It's so good.
To say, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. That's true. Big dick, big balls. You know what he's talking about here.
I just like it is the most
Big Dick Nick.
It is such a incredible, and I mean this like unironically.
Yeah.
Because like I love Jason Kelce. I love the sincerity. I love how very clearly, just not only how competitive, but how passionate he is, not about football, but like playing football with his teammates and playing for people, like playing for his coaches, like I love everything about it. Like this is to me like when a football guy, like a capital F football, capital G guy, is like the best version of that. It's a guy talking about how his quarterback had the biggest dick in the room and his coach had the biggest balls, and when he thinks about it, he is sobbing.
Yes,
he is crying hard.
How beautiful it is!
Because like looking back on that moment when they won the Super Bowl and that they did have the guts and the temerity to do the Philly special, it brings tears to his eyes.
It is
like a special guy. I'm very grateful that we'll obviously still have a lot of him.
He's
in the
gonna be
ecosystem
all over the place
despite his retirement. But truly, another thing, that beyond that I'm very, very happy about, just from a personal level, and just like loving watching him, and you know what has become of these guys. Is also his play on the field. Like I think sometimes because he is Jason Kelce, and of course the Kelce name and what it has meant and how it's like kind of morphed since the last 2 or 3 seasons of football.
Yeah,
it can kind of be forgotten that like Kelce truly redefined the center position in football.
The tush push is because of how one, it's because of how Jalen Hurts is so strong, but it's Kelce. Kelce's it's at the forefront of that play.
That's always why I think I chafed at the idea of it being this kind of artless play that like needs to be banned because it's almost cheating. Is that we saw other teams. I always bring this up. Like I remember really early on in the season, Anthony Richardson trying it with the Colts, and Anthony Richardson, who was an athletic freak, not being able to convert it nearly to the degree or with the quality that Jalen Hurts in this offensive line for the Eagles could do it. And the reasoning for that is, as you said, Kelce's build, Kelce's athleticism, Kelce's burst of being able to kind of snake under the defensive line to sort of almost provide like a ramp for Jalen Hurts to go through.
And his artistry with the snap.
Exactly, right? Like center, like not every NFL center is capable of doing that.
Yeah.
And doing that over and over and over and over. Like the repetition of something so finely tuned is not easy. And seeing any of what we now see with the offensive lines being so athletic in terms of climbing to the second level and going out in space for blocks, that's Jason Kelce.
Yeah.
That's what every play there's very few guys, even because I think by virtue a little bit of him being undersized, could be as fast, as quick off the line, and as tough, because the guy is barely missed any games and was all and like I don't think you could really find a play where you're like, oh, Kelce kind of phoned that one in.
Right.
He is always like going to the end of the freaking whistle, and like he is like as competitive. I mean, I think Travis and I think both of them are competitive in almost like psychotic ways, him and his brother. But Jason, like, you see it on even just like pedestrian snaps. He is always just going straight to the whistle and kind of getting in guys' shit.
Yeah.
So and just like, and you could see that manifest in like how much he cares in this clip, and also the clip when he was wearing the whole Brahmin like Sultan suit at the Super Bowl parade.
Yeah.
Singing about how everyone hates them, everyone hates the Eagles, and they don't care.
One of the great NFL personalities ever, and he will be very well suited for a career in media, which I think is gonna set him. Be prepared for him to like lose 40 pounds.
Oh yes, he's gonna be like
3 months.
He's
and
gonna be like a small man.
Totally different. That's always so jarring with offensive linemen.
I watched his my wife and I watched his documentary he did, because for Amazon when he was he made it thinking he was gonna retire, but then ultimately didn't. Then the Kelce Bowl happened. His best friend, I think, from his Eagles days, who also produced the movie with him, is Connor Barwin, who is a former, I think, linebacker for the Eagles. And he's interviewed in the movie, and like I remember Connor Barwin. He's had to have lost 100 pounds.
It's amazing.
He looks like an IT guy.
I know.
mean, I don't know how. I mean, I guess it's just a matter of if you are in that conditioning where where eating is like not enjoyable. It's just kind of part of your job, and you stop doing it, you can just lose.
No, well, they don't have to keep on weight like that.
Right.
I mean,
it's just not necessary anymore.
It's the same thing with those Giants offensive linemen from those great years.
Oh,
like
yeah, like
Chris
Snee,
Snee looks entirely different. Sean O'Hara does media stuff for the Giants, so I'm like, whoa.
He's like normal looking guy.
I mean, he has like piercing blue eyes, and you're like, wow, like you look like almost striking. It's
Joe Thomas
shocking.
is also a crazy one. Like Joe Thomas for the Browns, who is like now he looks like a mountain biker basically.
Yes.
And he's like 6'7", formerly 320 pounds.
It's unbelievable.
But yeah, I totally agree. I think we're going to see a big shedding for Jason once he doesn't have to be in a game shape any longer. But happy trails.
Happy trails. One of the
career.
greatest Eagles and a greatest offensive lineman in the history of the sport. All right, guys. Thanks so much. We will see you not this Monday because I'm going to be on vacation. Oh, in a warm place.
Soaking up the sun.
I won't give my assassination coordinates.
The dog should get suspended.
I will be in a warm place. We will see you all the Monday after, and then we'll be able to talk about all of this free agency stuff in the past.
We can make good on our prognostications.
Exactly. Peace.
Bye-bye.